Okay. Welcome everyone. I want first ask who using Terraform?
Me.
Okay. Who using OpenTofu?
Me.
That's last thing. That OpenTofu will be soon part of CNCF. They are very near. At least what I heard from my friend from Spacelift. And this talk will be about our journey with Terraform. I am working on project that is cloud service in Azure Cloud, that pure storage working. It's Azure VMware service for storage or something like that. Pure storage for, it's quite complicated name, but it's usually running our system in Azure as a native service there, and if you have AVS, the Azure VMware service, and you want more storage, that's the solution. And we are working on that almost 2 years, and we are now in public preview. And this will be our journey to current Terraform solution that we're using, and that we start 2 years ago, and you see that it was small, and we get that issue how from normal small project you get that big Terralith, that's Terraform monolith shortcut. Who am I? I am Ladislav. I'm staff engineer in Pure Storage. I worked before in Product Board, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, APRA, and LMC. You can find my website on prskavec.net. There are posts, for example, about observability and other topics. And you can find me and follow on X, Mastodon, other as Aptris. I am co-hosting You Build It, You Run It podcast, and I also, as Zdeněk mentioned, Prago meetup organizer for the last 10 years. What is Terralith? Terralith is usually Terraform monolith. It's a nice name. I really like it. If you are a Minecraft person, you can know Terralith too. It's one of plugins that you can run in Minecraft. That inspiration for that image generated by OpenAI. But my definition is that your Terraform is so big that you have one big shared state, and usually almost all operations. You have a main file that every refresh, update components take long, for example, 30 minutes, 1 hour to just refresh that file, all the resources, and you have tens, 20, 50 modules there, and takes plenty of time just for small change. For example, you just need update some SKU of VM, and still take a lot of time, and that make some issues for you. But it's not that Terralith is something wrong. It always depends on your use case. This approach has some advantages and disadvantages. It's it's always, it depends on your use case. That advantages is that all is simple and visible. Yeah? You have everything in one repo. You have all the dependency management on one thing. You see in plans always full set of the changes that are done across everything. You have everything in one step. Usually you apply, you see everything what was applied. If you're using Terraform workspaces, you can manage multiple environments easily with this monolith. But I see more the disadvantages in my case, and that's massive blast radius. That's biggest issue for me, that we managing service in multiple regions, and every change usually may start impacting every region. Yeah? You can easily break every region with that change, and it was one of the things that how I starting thinking how we can break it, that monolith, and making better. The other things are the state file. State file is super big, and if you editing state file directly for some specific issues you need fix it, it's very hard to do it. with split it state file into small pieces, very easy to make some operation that you needed, and everything is slow. That's biggest issue for me. But if you have some automation, you maybe doesn't care. That's depending. I remember in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, we have tooling that running every Terraform for everything. You doesn't care if they go hour or 2 hours. That's running for you, and you doesn't care. And other issue that I see is locking. Yeah, that multiple people cannot work. If it's one state file, you have common lock. You cannot easily work in multiple people. It's always issue with locking, and collaboration can be bottleneck for team. All the environments are connected. If you have it in that monolith, that can be another issue. That modularity and reuse parts are limited. You can use just modules. You have to correct versioning and all the things. The other issue are security and access control. You cannot easily forbidden some part for some people to access it. It's everything in one thing. You can maybe make some difference on the Git level or GitHub level repository, but it's very hard to do it if they running from command line the Terraform, and it's quite sometimes unpredictable as that big impact of that. And it's hard for maintenance that you need upgrading everything at once, all the providers, and that make some complicated also onboarding new people in project and how that do it. How we create Terralith? That's classic project. We start small. We don't want it to make some Terralith. We start in 2023. We create first repository with our Terraform code. It was just for our dev environment. We easily make it everything work. We have some POCs in the time and it working. Later, and that we working on that as one team, and later we migrate to Azure, and we start working with our platform team together to some solution, and they push us in that solution. They trying standardize how a company approach the Azure, that we have some landing zones that we using in Azure. There are some recommendation from Azure how you can make rights and access control and networking. And they created one repository we call Azure Live that usually represent all our infrastructure managing by multiple teams in that one. And that's how we started, and putting everything together, and repository was bigger and bigger. And the other team join us. That's I don't see too, but we join with other team that create another part of components that we using, and we have I think 50 modules, and everything start to be complicated with more regions. And we make that decision with that other developer team that will be good approach if we create separate repos with all our modules and make it as big main that we include in that live repo, that we have one big module but on our jurisdiction and not on that share that is managed by platform team. And that works sometime. We start 4 or 5 modules. That was super good for us. But in the time, after a year, that was 20 of that modules. That was super slow to run it. And we make monolith in monolith, and that was super complicated. On the end of the 2024, I really have issues that it's slow, getting slower and slower. And we start adding more and more regions, and we have quite that problem. But we make one change, and that team that I mentioned before, they left the project. We don't need them, and we can delete quite a lot of infrastructure that they using. And that's usually stay that we was just 2 teams, our infrastructure team and us, to working on that project that simplify the solution. And we have the plans to make go to some integration pre-prod environment and production in next year, and I struggle with that, how we scale that up. And I decide that it will be good to have something that is called stacks. Stacks is concept that's created by a few tools. We decide to use Terramate, but I think the Terragrant starting implementing later that. There are SaaS tools, Spacelift or Terraform Cloud. They have this approach too, that you create folders and they are usually separate with state files, and you can have multiple of them orchestrated, and all is separate in small state files, and it's much more easy to run it, orchestrate, and make it fast. And that was on March 2024, a year ago, usually, that we start implementing region in UK South for some testing, and I found that we usually copy paste for every region to new things. Yeah, the regions are the same. We use this for control plane, and we need much more developer approach to that. Yeah, make some modules that we can approach, but from developer perspective, make that dry. And I look on tooling that way, and I found the Terramate tool that support multiple things, and one of is that you can templating and generating Terraform from that, and you just make some parameters there, and everything can be generated, and you can have one set of templates for region, and that generate whole region. And if you have 20 of that regions, it's in seconds to make it. Terramate is not perfect. They don't have, for example, stack versioning and some other things that we implemented into that we done about the Joule, that we can easily roll out different versions of that templates in different regions, that we can easily roll out to pre-prod, prod, and different regions by our piece. And we implemented until August, I think, 5 regions very easily after we have this everything split into stacks and using generation and orchestration from Terramate. What we learned there, the biggest lesson learned for us was that quite often you see in organization that all the repository and structure copy organization chart, yeah? Not really your use case or what you really want to achieve. And that was biggest issue, and pursued, for example, our platform team, that we need everything independent on them, was 4 years. Take us almost 2 years to pursue them. They have own infrastructure repo with their parts. They have that access control, network, and other things. And we have separate everything, application, databases, clusters, everything is on our side in separate repo with separate modules. And that was quite important for us, that they have time for us in the beginning to implement it, the basic, but if we want for them maintenance, upgrading providers, they don't have time for us. And that was big issue for us, that we need quite a lot of changes in provider. Azure is quite often upgrading providers, making changes, yeah, as every cloud provider, and they don't have enough capacity to support us, and that doesn't work us, that we push them, and they agree after almost 2 years to push it, that we are independent. Our SRE team completely manage everything by them, and we have strict boundaries on network and some access control, and that separate in different repos, and not issues with that. Yeah, and from tooling perspective, I don't want to go with Terramate into details. I had some separate talk about that somewhere. It's usually orchestration automation tool that give you some templating, code generation. They can run Terraform, Terragrant, OpenTofu, anything. It's really tool that support your normal tooling, give you that stacks and some propagation in orchestration that you can easily share outputs from one stack to other, make some graph from that and run it. One really things that I like it, that they make a diff between your branch and main branch and running only what you changed there. That you have 20 modules, but you change one, they running just that one. It's super fast, very easily for increment development on infrastructure. But it's still good to run everything that you don't have and have some drift detection and other things. That's always useful. Yeah, and we use usually for orchestration automation GitHub Actions. We are quite big customer for GitHub Action. We running all action in our data centers, all as private runners. And one other tool that we use is some linting. We use TF-lint. That's, I think, plenty of people in Terraform using, and that's only my issue with that. That really good tool that help you with some issues with Terraform. It's not enough. If you compare any linting with Go or any language, it's much more better than any tool about Terraform. Yeah, that give you some insights, but it's not enough for me. Yeah, some typos, but sometimes that you using string references, so that doesn't help too much, and other things. Yeah, orchestration, that's really important for us. That and one other thing that our SRE team implemented, usually something as if you know Atlantis for running Terraform, it's open source tool. It's very good. I used in product board before and have good experience with that. I tried pursued our SRE team for almost 2 years to use it, and they re-implement it in GitHub Actions in 2 generations, and still not good. But finally, they are working on moving to Atlantis. That, but take me almost 2 years to pursue them to do it. It wasn't easy. Recommendation, I already mentioned the Atlantis. I think it's very good tool if you need run it by yourself. You don't use some SaaS solution as Spacelift or Terraform Cloud or 8.0 or what is the third one, big one. The stacks are super useful. You don't need Terramate. There are other now solution, but 2 years ago was usually only Terramate, but Terragrant should be almost done or done, I hope, stacks. But if you use, for example, Spacelift, they have supported for a long time. That's one of features why people use them. That's good things. Yeah, and what we don't choose, that's quite important too. We evaluate Terraform Cloud and Spacelift as SaaS solution, and we don't choose them for pricing reason usually. Yeah, the Terraform Cloud is super expensive. That doesn't make sense almost for nobody, I think. Spacelift have better pricing, but still you paid for runners there the similar way as GitHub Action, and if you have already GitHub Action, doesn't make sense pay both size, and we already have big amount of GitHub runners, and doesn't make sense for us to migrate. That advantage of Spacelift, some policies, some other things are not so big in that big scale that we running GitHub Actions. And the alternative is that I think Atlantis, and that's make quite sense with some stacks orchestration tool as Terramate works for us. That's all. Some questions? Sure. Yeah, where do you store state files? We use object store. Azure is better than S3. That's automatic locking there. That you can directly use it without extra something for locking. That's easy to use. That's one of their container solution. There are one thing better than S3, but nothing else.
Maybe it's important to say that Terraform itself doesn't support the storing the state files in the object storage, but OpenTofu, if you know it, so it supported. It's in the last version that they created.
Yeah, but Terramate using that, it's easy to use that. Experience with Digger, I heard that name, but I don't know about it.
The Digger is, I think, something better than Atlantis from my perspective.
That's some
it's very similar.
iteration.
I think it was even based on the Atlantis, but the Atlantis has some issues with the control plane and also own runners, because there's some limitation of keeping or having own runners from the Atlantis, and Digger supports it.
Why Terraform variables are not enough to parameterize Terraform configuration to avoid copy-paste? That's usually things that you have some variables, as for example, name of region that are used on every module in Azure that's using required, and the Terramate doing that I have one and that's automatically applied to whole subdirectories without that I need pass to every module and everything. Just simplify things. But you can generate variable files directly, and they just generate it there, and that simplifies things. You don't need any copy paste with code generation.
I think it's the most common reason to move from the Terraform to another solution, because you don't want it to copy paste these environments. To imagine that you have a big structure, and so you don't want it to copy it to everywhere. So it doesn't make sense.
Why did you choose Terraform instead of Bicep? Bicep have multiple issues. And I am working with Terraform almost 10 years. That's why. I work in AWS, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and now Azure. That I don't need learn the Bicep. And Bicep have some issues. We have some Microsoft guy who is something as ambassador and he using that, and he don't recommend us to use it. That there was something that about real time and something I don't remember exactly, but we don't want to use the Bicep.
I work for many companies, to helping them with some CI/CDs, and I have never heard about a company who are using the Bicep. So
I know, Microsoft.
Okay.
and they struggle with that too. I have friends in Microsoft, and they complaining always in pub for that. Okay.
So, is there any other question here? No? If not, I have some.
Okay.
So we can continue. So, you said that there are some alternatives, like, for example, Terragrant, right?
Yeah.
So, why did you choose
Terramate?
Terramate?
Yeah, in that time that I evaluated, it wasn't stack support anywhere else from open source. That was first, guys. And I really like that's if you look on Terramate, it's tool for developers usually. That for me as SRE that have developer background, I really match with that tooling and that guys doing that code generation, make everything dry, and all that thing that was super good. I used Terragrant before for some things, and that was quite good. I really like Terratest for some testing, but have some issues. And Terragrant have issues with new features for some long time, but I think a year ago they restarted and starting adding new features exactly with competition tool as Terramate. That starting make some differences in market, and I think there are other tools that trying be a SaaS solution. The Terramate is not just open source CLI. They have cloud version. They are focused on observability about Terraform and other. you can run TerraGrant with that too. That they are really looking as orchestration tool more than anything else, and that's was fit with that. And I met them in Paris last year and discussed with the founder about the approach, and I really like it and it works for us.
Yeah, I think it's a crucial part of it because the TerraGrant doesn't support any Cloud Run. So you have to implement some other solution. But of course, all of these SaaS are using TerraGrant or something similar. But you still have to implement it. So I think it's good
and
to
still
mention it.
Still we have to make multiple things by ourselves. Yeah, for example. We have that code generation, and it's with versioning that we added. You create new folders for every version, and it's hard to, for example, make the diffs. Yeah, that we make special folder .latest that we always put that version and use just in pull request for make nice diffs in pull request and similar things that you don't think from before, and that versioning itself on that code generation that we have to develop by ourselves. It's not by default in Terramate. Yeah, they don't need for that, but we usually have the same stack, but moving from region to regions, and we won't be sure that we test in specific region and roll out step by step in other regions, and we can version every stack independently if we need it for some patching or fixing and all the things.
Yeah, when I compare just the Terraform with other solutions, I mean the more clever ones. So I think that it's not only about missing sharing, environments, but also, getting the output from modules to modules. Because it's also pretty bad.
Yes, and Terramate solving very good to that. You can run Terramate graph, and you can see how the orchestration works, how the stacks are going, and you can share outputs between them. That's super useful for us. And what I like it, the original was that you have to nest it, that stacks for order, but they change it that you can just make it flat and just make the order by hooks before, after, and it's very easy and readable for us, and it works. And we have that specific use case that we, for example, run that, we install the cluster, we have to install the Flux, and after that we have to wait for a load balancer to wake up and get that IP for DNS later. And that's very hard, but with this we have easy to do it, that we make that orchestration and some wait call for checking resource, and after that, and it was quite easy for us to do it. And I don't know how that in normal Terraform will be possible.
Yeah, I can also share the most common way. You can imagine that you will just spin up the tool, for example, Keycloak, with the Terraform, and you wanted to also manage it. So you will just spin up it, and you still need to get some tokens, which you can manage it. So you have to share it with another module. And with the Terraform, it's quite hard if you don't have it in one repo. So if you wanted to have some structure, repositories, not just a mono repo, so it's also helpful, I think.
Yeah.
So, no other question. So I think that we can close it. So thanks.